The Biden administration is desperately trying to shift focus off the chaos in Afghanistan and President Joe Biden's plummeting approval ratings as the 2022 elections loom by gearing up to tackle a number of Biden's unrealized campaign promises from his Build Back Better agenda. Officials are reportedly aiming to roll out a number of new economic policy items this fall as Congress works toward passage of a bipartisan infrastructure compromise and a Democrat-backed plan that total $5 trillion in new government spending. The hefty figure includes $1.2 trillion for the bipartisan deal and $3.5 trillion for the second, which has no Republican support in Congress. Biden's infrastructure deal, which would dramatically reshape federal spending priorities if passed, does not include a number of causes the president championed on the campaign trail. Those include promises to alleviate student loan debt, creating a first-time home buying credit and slashing prescription drug prices, The Washington Examiner reports. The president and his whole team are proud of and are fighting for the substance of his Build Back Better agenda, which is fully paid for by asking big corporations and the wealthiest Americans to pay their fair share and by empowering Medicare to negotiate lower prices with pharmaceutical companies, an official told the outlet. Officials also claimed enacting Biden's unprecedentedly progressive economic agenda would reduce inflation and reduce barriers for entering the labor force without adding to the deficit. Some of the president's wishlist items have already come to fruition over recent weeks. The Department of Education forgave $6 billion in student debt for Americans with permanent disabilities on August 19, affecting nearly 400,000 people. On Wednesday, the administration directed the Treasury and Housing and Urban Development departments to boost the supply of affordable rental units as well as single-family homes and 2 to 4 unit properties, among other measures to expand housing access. But those measures went largely unnoticed in the news cycle as Biden earned bipartisan criticism for the U.S.'s dramatic exit from Afghanistan at the end of August. The last military jet left Kabul on August 30, leaving behind up to 200 American citizens and thousands of special immigrant visa applicants to the Taliban's mercy. Administration officials have repeatedly sworn the evacuation effort is not over but rather transitioned into a diplomatic mission. But that hit a snag over the weekend as reports emerged of privately chartered flights unable to evacuate 1,000 people, including 142 American citizens, out of the Afghan city of Mazar-i-Sharif. Delays have been attributed to a breakdown in communication between the State Department and Taliban officials. Most recently, the department has been accused of failing to let the Taliban know it green-lit the flights, leading to what GOP lawmaker Rep. Michael McCall called a hostage situation on the ground. As the situation in Afghanistan devolved, Biden's slipping poll numbers plummeted further late last week to just 44%, according to an ABC News, Washington Post survey. By contrast, 51% of people actively disapproved of Biden's job in office. A breakdown of the numbers shows just 36% of independent voters approving of Biden, while only 8% of Republicans think he's doing a good job. The 44% figure is a 6-point drop from Biden's June approval numbers. His disapproval shot up by 9 points since then. More than 3/4 of people surveyed agreed the U.S. needed to withdraw from Afghanistan, but 60% disagree with how Biden did it. Only 30% approve of how he handled it. A majority of people also think Biden shares blame for the ISIS-K claimed suicide attack outside of the Kabul airport, which left 170 Afghans and 13 U.S. service members dead. Biden also caught heat from a number of Republicans over the weekend for spending the Labor Day weekend in Delaware with no public events on Saturday and Sunday as the situation in Mazar-i-Sharif devolved and forced Secretary of State Blinken to jet to Qatar for negotiations Sunday. and according to a YouGov tracker, 58.5% of people believe the country is headed in the wrong direction compared to just 29.6% who think it's generally on the right path. A Democratic operative told the Examiner that polling on Biden's economic agenda is considerably more favorable. It's kind of obvious what the White House would rather be talking about, the operative said, and unlike the bipartisan criticism on Afghanistan, political support and opposition of Biden's economic agenda is much easier to predict. Democratic leadership will line up behind Biden and whip the necessary votes. Meanwhile, you can expect Republicans to basically fall into lockstep opposition, a Democrat aide told the outlet. Republicans, however, will likely aim to keep the focus on Afghanistan, which the aide said was not a winnable battle for Biden. For his part, Biden touted his $5 trillion infrastructure legislation in a White House speech shortly before departing for Louisiana Friday to tour damage inflicted by Hurricane Ida. My agenda, I believe, is one that every American, if they understand it, they can get behind, the president said, and because of the work we've all put in, not just here in Washington, but in communities across the country, every one of those goals is now within our reach.